Hola, mis amigos. Welcome to the Post Game Show podcast. Welcome to our show today. We are happy you're joining us. My name is Grant. I'm here with Tyler, Matt, and Evan, as usual here, and we are excited to be here talking about sports, even though there's not a lot of sports going on right now, unless you're like me and watch the Korean baseball organization. We are here with a really good show planned. We got a lot of current events to talk about, especially just about 30 minutes ago. It's been a pretty much confirmed thing. The NBA is coming back, so we have a lot to talk about that. We're actually going to be doing our brackets for the proposed NBA proposal for the 16-team tournament. And at the end, we have a lot of sports topics that are very debatable and will be fun to talk about. And I say this every week, but I'm going to say it again. It's going to be our best show. So, Evan, start us off with your question.
Yeah, so we're going to come back from last week with the question I posed. I basically said, like in a parallel universe, because that's a big thing right now. Apparently there's a parallel universe, which is insane. I asked you guys what sports event, in your opinion, would be different in a parallel universe versus what happened in reality. So it could be like a trade, a draft pick, championship, etc., like a big sports moment. That's the gist of it. So that was the question. So what do you guys got?
I'll go ahead and start. I'll go ahead and start because, Tyler, I know you got a lot to say.
All right.
So mine is the 2018 NBA playoffs. Victor Oladipo, Game 5, driving down the lane, last seconds of the game, goes up for a layup. He gets blocked by LeBron James. That was a goaltend. If they call that a goaltend in my parallel universe, that's a goaltend. The Pacers are heading back home, Game 6. We got all the momentum. We're winning that series. We're winning the next series against Toronto, and we're going to the finals. We're winning the next series after that and going to the finals. All right, we'll get beat by the Warriors, but we're going to the finals that year.
I like that.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. Tyler, did you want to go?
I'll go if you got a lot. If you got a lot to say, I'll go really quick because I don't have enough.
I'll go last.
Okay. All right. In my parallel universe, I have the Oklahoma City Big Three staying together, and they are still a team right now.
It's a good one.
Now, this is why. All three of that Big Three, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, they've all won an MVP. And when they went to the finals against the Miami Heat, all four of their Big Four, if you add Serge Ibaka, were all under the age of 24. You can't tell me that wouldn't have been a dynasty. I know there were some unfortunate injuries that happened, but you got to think, man, if they were still together right now, there's no way they're not winning a championship.
Dude, and think about, if they still would have added, Oladipo and he actually would have stayed. They would have been, a fire team. Oh my
They would have.
So mine, I'm going to go back with Matt's team with the Pacers, but we're going to go back on the timeline a little bit, and we're going to go to 1998. And I have Reggie Miller and the Pacers retiring MJ in the Eastern Conference Finals, going on and winning the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history.
Yes, sir.
Still waiting for that first championship, too.
Dude, yeah.
My other one that I was thinking about was the Malice at the Palace. I was saying that in the parallel universe, that would never happen. I think that is the best Pacers team we've ever had.
Agreed.
Honestly. We had the best chance to win the finals then, but.
All right, Tyler, let's hear it.
I'm up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so mine is the Colts never hiring Ryan Grigson as general manager.
I almost put that
I
one.
love it.
Okay, hear me out. This is a big controversy. So these were the Colts' two options for general manager. It was Ryan Grigson, and they could have also promoted a guy who was in-house, and that happened to be Tom Telesco, who is now the successful general manager of the Los Angeles Chargers. So instead of promoting Telesco to GM, they go out and hire Ryan Grigson over him. So I just want to talk about this a little bit and talk about how bad Ryan Grigson is, for one, and just how much he set the Colts franchise back and ruined Andrew Luck's career. So when Grigson came from the Eagles, Eagles beat writers and reporters were literally giving the Colts so much crap and just laughing at us because of how bad he was as a scout. in Philadelphia, let alone being able to run like team operations for a team. So I just wanted to briefly touch on the first-round picks Ryan Grigson made when he was the general manager of the Colts. 2012, his first draft, first overall, he takes Andrew Luck. That's a no-brainer pick. I mean,
Right.
anyone could have made that pick. So I'm not going to give him a whole lot of credit for that pick. 2013, the following year, Bio Werner. Does anyone know where Bio
Bjorn Werner?
is nowadays?
I've heard the name. I mean,
Yeah, I think he's in Germany. I think he went back to Germany.
Colts took him with the 24th pick. He played 3 NFL seasons, totaled 58 total tackles, 6 sacks. I just want to give you guys a couple names that Bio Werner was taken over in that draft. Travis Frederick, all-pro center for the Cowboys, Xavier Rhodes, Zach Ertz, Le'Veon Bell, DeAndre Hopkins, just to name a few.
Xavier Rhodes is a Colt now, though. Full circle, man.
That is true.
That's true.
That is true. So let's go to 2014 with the 22nd pick. We actually didn't have a first-round pick. That pick was traded. We traded the 22nd pick for running back Trent Richardson, who turned out to be
New York Trent, baby.
a complete bust. Trent Richardson was. If we would have kept the pick, some of the guys we could have taken who were there at 22, D. Ford, DeMarcus Lawrence, Joel Bitonio, Kyle Van Noy, Devontae Adams. Okay? So the next year, in 2014, the Colts somehow reached the AFC Championship game, get cheated by the Patriots because they decided to deflate their footballs.
Yep.
But we had the 29th pick in 2015. The Colts take Philip Dorsett. So I just want to talk about this one a little bit. Philip Dorsett, as a senior in college, had 36 catches. That's 3 catches per game. He was a T.Y. Hilton clone. You already have T.Y. Hilton. Why would you take another 5'10" receiver? And he's hasn't had more than 600 yards or 5 touchdowns in his NFL career at best. I mean, this is at best. Philip Dorsett is a wide receiver 3 in the NFL. I mean, that's at best. He had one decent season with the Patriots, and that happened to be last year.
Woo!
But 2016, not a bad pick. He took Ryan Kelly, but this was only because he finally realized that he was ruining Andrew Luck's career. Luck was constantly on his back, constantly battling injuries. So he finally decided he needed to get him help before he got killed. But if the offensive line was addressed earlier, let's say the Colts would have taken Travis Frederick that year in the first round over Bio Werner, we could have addressed different needs, and some needs that Ryan Kelly was taking over was Chris Jones, Miles Jack, Jalen Smith, Derrick Henry, and Michael Thomas, reigning offensive player of the year. So yeah, I mean, it's very easy to see that this guy whiffed on nearly, and now it wasn't just first round picks. The dude whiffed every draft, failed to address the offensive line, which ultimately led to him completely ruining Luck's career. Tom Telesco has had a very successful, very successful career as a general manager of the Chargers. I mean, you guys know how I feel about him. He was my winner of the 2020 draft, especially in that first round. But if it wasn't for Grigson, Andrew Luck would still be playing. He would have a tremendous young team around him. I know we fortunately have Chris Ballard now, but, I mean, let's just say we still get those guys like Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard. But let's just say, Grigson wouldn't have completely ruined the Colts franchise in a 5-year span. Andrew Luck would still be playing. I would see multiple MVPs, a couple Super Bowls probably with this team around him. It's just sad to see. So that was mine.
Definitely, I'm surprised, man. That definitely, you came prepared. You definitely came prepared.
I'm sorry it's so long, but I had to.
No,
I get it.
Oh, that's fine.
Listen, you're just expressing the frustrations of all the Colts fans in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
6
Very
years.
frustrated.
Yeah.
Very frustrated.
Man.
Well, I mean, what do you do when your franchise quarterback, who's a superstar in the league, retires when he's 29?
I know.
You know what I mean? It's just –
Yeah. That's another option I had for my situation was Andrew Luck never retiring, but I guess it all leads back to Grigson.
The Grigson.
yeah.
Definitely right there. Well, real quick, just a little preview for the rest of the show. I got a lot of crap last night on one of my tweets. It was a friendly tweet. It was a friendly tweet, just giving my opinion about something. And a lot of people disagreed with it. My explanation is going to be later in the show. It kind of ties into a segment. So if I told you to watch this so you could watch my explanation, I'll make sure to tell you what time to skip to because trust me, I got a lot to say about it. So let's move into current events, man. A lot has happened this week. I think one of the craziest things that's happened, and you can see it in Evan's background, is the entire MLB is in flames right now.
Dumpster fire.
It is. Now, if you don't know what we're talking about, to give a brief summary, basically the MLB owners have already basically taken a lot of the money from the players whenever the league comes back. And now they want to take even more money when the league comes back. And now it's getting to a point where instead of coming back because it's safe from the coronavirus, now the league's not going to come back just because the players can't come to an agreement to play for the amount of money the owners are telling them they want them to play for.
Yeah, or vice versa, with the owners not agreeing with the players.
Exactly, yes. So it's basically not a medical issue anymore. Now it's a financial issue.
Financial, yeah.
So what do we think about that?
I think, I heard a great opinion on a show I was watching the other day where the CBAs, they don't really necessarily protect the elite players like your Mike Trouts who make, high amounts of millions of dollars on their contracts. So really a pay cut doesn't really hurt them too bad. It's more like those mid-tier players that really are they make there's still a lot of money, but it's an average, MLB salary. They're not like elite, but they're still, so it kind of looks after them, and they're the ones who pretty much take the biggest hit from any sort of, revenue, decrease, in sharing. So.
Absolutely. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I just want some baseball, man. I love watching baseball. I just hope everything gets settled soon and they can come to an agreement.
Yeah.
I get both sides. The players, they obviously want the amount of money they signed for, but I can also see the GM side and the front office of each team. They only have a certain amount of money because now for the past however so many months, they haven't been able to generate revenue because they can't do anything.
Yeah. And you could definitely, argue now that before even this pandemic, the MLB just wasn't America's pastime anymore. You can obviously argue that in the NFL and, even in professional basketball has taken that over. So it's just the fact that they can't get along and, give fans some games and some entertainment during these tough times. It's you gotta wonder if their popularity is going to drop lower than it already is, which could even hurt potential future revenues already. So it's definitely just not a good situation for the league.
And a great point is that, now of all times, whoever is that first league to come back is going to gain fans.
Yeah.
Whoever it is definitely is already at an advantage. And Evan and I were actually talking earlier today, and we were saying, if hockey comes back, people that have never watched hockey a day in their lives will become hockey fans.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be the only sport on. I'll tell you, just personal preference, I was a UFC kind of fan for a while. I've watched every event since the coronavirus started to happen. I enjoy watching it now. And that will happen with hockey too. And I think baseball would have probably been way more beneficial. It's a little bit easier to understand. Most people get the concept of baseball. Not a lot of people get the concept of hockey with all of the rules that hockey has. And, it feels like baseball would have had so much more of an advantage. And I think they're ruining their opportunity right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since, hockey, besides maybe the NBA, are projected to be one of the first pro leagues back, at least in American sports. That's going to dominate the news, and that's what everybody's going to be sort of consumed with. So definitely their popularity is going to grow, and people are going to start watching games. I, for one, have never been a huge hardcore hockey fan, but if hockey's on, I'll definitely take interest in it. So it'll grow my popularity in the league. It's just kind of interesting how the NHL, which has been sort of a a sub-tier pro league within the United States is sort of like headwaying all this new sort of tackling the pandemic and how do we get around and get back to playing games. So.
And I'll tell you one thing, and this is something that I'm definitely experienced about. I mean, I talk about it all the time. Gambling helps this, man, because I saw a stat the other day that this golf match, I believe it was Dustin Johnson and Rory McIlroy took on Ricky Fowler and something Wolf, I think his last name was. If that was on some random weekend with all these sports going on, nobody would have watched it. If you're a good golf fan, you would have watched it. But if you didn't care about golf, you wouldn't have watched it. Statistically, one of the top gambled on events in golf history. Now, you can't tell me that whatever sport comes back will get a lot of viewers just for that aspect. You're going to get a lot of viewers not only because people are bored and they want to watch sports because they miss sports, but some people that like gambling on sports, they're going to watch whatever's on. I think that's just kind of a given.
Yeah. Speaking of golf, what did you guys think of the match that occurred? Tiger and Peyton, Tom, and Phil. What did you guys think about that? If you saw any highlights.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I saw the highlights. That shot by Brady was nice.
Yes, sir.
Nice shot.
Peyton had some dingers too. Yeah. I just like the whole format of it. It was kind of, they kept it loose, cracking jokes at each other, talking smack. And I mean, it was all for charity. So, I mean, they raised like $20 million for, COVID relief charities or whatever. So, yeah, I thought it was pretty good idea. And they might continue in the future with other like lineups,
Yeah.
Drew Brees has interest and some other people. So
it's definitely entertaining. Just something to watch, and especially fun to watch like players from other sports go and play golf. Like, it's something you'll never see, like, unless it's, a situation like this.
Right.
So it's definitely pretty cool. So let's move on to the NFL, and something that kind of sparked some interest in the NFL world today is that Tua Tagovailoa was announced possibly getting that Week 1 starter job. So what do you think that means?
I'll start with this. I think you should start Week 1. There all these narratives like, a young guy would benefit from sitting behind so-and-so for so many games. Put the guy out there that's going to give you the best chance to win games. And on this Miami Dolphins roster, that guy is Tua. And I think it's going to take him 2 to 3 practices to realize the talent that this guy has. I mean, they know how talented he is. They took him 5th overall, but he's got that it factor. And, what's going to get him better is being on the field, playing, getting those starting reps, and then go into the sideline and having Ryan Fitzpatrick coach him up from the sideline and then practice, not having Fitzpatrick starting and him holding a clipboard on the sideline. That's not going to help his progression. We've seen it with Kyler Murray. We've seen it with Baker Mayfield. These guys that are starting right away, Sam Darnold. I think that's the best way for them, to learn. And I think Fitzpatrick's a great guy to have there. They're bringing him back for another year to just, show him the ropes. But I do think Tua should be out there, and I think Tua will be out there when it comes Week 1.
Yeah. I think no doubt that Tua will be out there. I think it might have been a little too early to call, I don't know if they came out officially and said, like, they're looking at it. But for me, like, as of, like, a viewer, like, I'm definitely going to have to wait till, like, camp and all that to sort of, like, sort things out and see, like, how he performs in, like, a camp, because no doubt he's had college success. I just need to see him at the pro level because it's 2 completely different things. But no doubt he's talented, but I just think you give Fitzmagic a little bit of, work in there, see how he flies. And if he's not, obviously he's not. We've seen his highs, we've seen his lowest of lows. So if the lowest of lows show, I definitely throw 2 in the fire. But yeah, I think in my opinion, I think you start with Fitz, really start out the season. And obviously if things aren't improving, you can go to Tua. So
yeah, I'm kind of with you, Tyler. I'm a big fan of young quarterbacks coming in and getting their opportunity right away. Tua definitely deserves it. He's been one of the top talents in the past few years. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what he does this year.
I think you just definitely got to do what's best for the team. And, I mean, looking at a talent perspective, I think Tua is by far the more talented quarterback when it comes to him and Ryan Fitzpatrick. But I don't know. People do kind of forget Ryan Fitzpatrick had a really good end of the season last year. And I think maybe the Dolphins would be even more beneficial to trade Ryan Fitzpatrick and maybe see if another team who needs a quarterback, no one really comes to the top of my head, but if you think of maybe a team who has an injury at some point or a team that really is in need for a backup quarterback, why not trade Ryan Fitzpatrick and get some value out of him? Because even though he's old, he can still run an offense. And I think if he has an offense with talented receivers around him and maybe a good offensive line, I could see him leading a team to a playoff berth or something like that. Like I said, there's not really any teams right now that I could think of, but, I mean, that's an option they could hold. But other than that, I mean, Tua's too talented to just let him sit there. But kind of like what Evan said, you got to see him go throughout camp. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So also around the NFL, a report came out yesterday that Jadeveon Clowney initially declined an offer from the Cleveland Browns. All of us have a dear place in our hearts for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, wore this shirt for the first time today, danger zone. But
listen, I should have put Jadeveon Clowney's face on this dumpster instead of the MLB logo because that is an absolute joke. Listen, we don't need him. I would have loved to have him, but honestly, I haven't seen him produce enough in the last couple of years with the teams he's been bouncing around, so someone else can have him. I'm fine with Myles Garrett and the rest of the crew over there doing work. But, yeah, I guess I don't know what they didn't come out and say what the offer was, but it was an aggressive offer. So, sorry, bud.
Yeah, it was the highest amount of money that he's been offered throughout this whole offseason. So I'm with Evan. I think it's a dumb move from Clowney, really. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't think he knows what he wants. He says he wants to play for a contender, but at the same time, he's not going to settle for the money that he thinks he's worth, which is that upper echelon of defensive player money, and he's not worth that. I'm sorry, but he is a very disruptive defensive player. I will give him that. He has been ever since he came in the league. But we only have 3 sacks in 2019. You're not going to get Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack money. It's not going to happen. Cleveland – I think Cleveland has just as good a roster in the NFL as any other team. So for him to turn down the highest amount of money from a good NFL team, it doesn't make sense to me, and I definitely don't think he's worth that upper echelon of money. I do think he's in the 15 to 17, maybe a year range, but not that 20 to 22 that Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack's getting.
Yeah, he just hasn't produced in the last, couple years. And, he's coming back, I believe, from an injury going into this season. And so he just needs to – I don't know if he realizes what I think he values himself more than, like, what the league is valuing him right now, because I feel like definitely after declining this, it's just like what's the market left for him? Like, he's just I mean, if depending on what the offer was from the Browns, which is pretty substantial, I guess, it's like, I mean, you can't really go much higher than probably what they offered. So that's interesting. And then also, Cam doesn't have a spot still, so that's another thing to like I wanted to bring up is like, where's Cam going to go?
True. I think when it comes to Clowney, though, it shows a lot when a player, goes away from a team that traded a lot for him, because the Seahawks traded away a decent amount to the Texans to get him last season. And, I don't know necessarily if it was like a great, fit for him to be with the Seahawks. Obviously, they had a pretty good season, and he had a great season himself. But at the same time, like, if you're not going to show that loyalty to the Seahawks, and also you're going to turn down big offers from teams that you have a chance to make the playoffs with, what are you waiting for? You know what I mean? Like, what are you waiting for a team that has a bunch of cap room, but like the Lions or something to come and offer you when you have a very little chance to make the playoffs? Like, it just shows a lot about who you are, like, when it comes to an offer, when you're not taking offers from teams that, necessarily could be a good fit. But
it's like, well, how bad do you want to return to the game,
Yeah.
Like, clearly not enough. Clearly the dollar sign's more important right now, which obviously you got to take your own, but yeah, I just think it's bad PR on his move.
Well, the guy's been in the league 6 years, and he's only had 9 or more sacks one time, never had a 10-sack season. And, like Myles Garrett had 10 sacks in 10 games last year. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, it definitely would have been nice to have Clowney on the Browns. I would have been happy about it because he's a very disruptive player. But I think it's a dumb move on his part. I mean, and like Grant said, says a lot about who he is, and I don't think he knows what he wants. He wants top end dollar, but at the same time he wants to play for a top end team. You're gonna have to meet in the middle somewhere. I mean, and I think this was the perfect opportunity for him because the Browns offered him not only a lot of money, but I think they have one of the better rosters in the league. So,
absolutely,
for sure. Along with the NFL, something that Evan briefly mentioned, Cam Newton's still without a job. Do we have any predictions of where he might end up, or will he even play this season?
Well, I did read that he is now open to being a backup. So I did read that. I know he would prefer to be a starter, but he did say that he would be open to being a backup. So I'm just confused why no teams have offered him anything because he would immediately be the best backup in the league. He should be a starter somewhere. I'm sure Grant is hoping that the Patriots come through last minute and sign him. But, yeah, I don't know where he'll end up. I don't really have a good solid prediction. I really don't.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean obviously he's a talented quarterback, but at the same he's got this big personality and ego that I feel like would only fit like a certain team. Like Frank Wright's talked in the past and Chris Ballard, like they try to get guys who like fit the current culture. So it's just like you gotta like look around the league and see what culture would fit Cam Newton's ego and personality. Not that it's a bad ego or personality, but it's just a big one. And so that. But now that he came out and said that he'd be willing to be a backup, so that I feel like that could definitely boost his market for sure.
I do want to add one more thing. Ian Rappaport did tweet that, by the way, that Cam is open to being a backup. And I did read something as well. Ron Rivera, his old head coach on the Panthers, now the head coach of the Redskins, did also say he's not ruling out that he would sign Cam Newton, and he's not ruling out that he wouldn't sign Cam Newton. So that could be something to potentially keep an eye on in Washington.
I think that'd be a good fit, honestly. I mean, you want to develop Haskins, but at the same time, if you're just trying to put out the best team possible, you would probably start Cam Newton, or if not, let him play behind him.
It's going back to like Fitzpatrick and Tua, that could be a good good combo as well. Especially if he's, I mean, you don't know like whether they would start Haskins or Newton. You might assume they might start Newton, but even if he like goes in as a backup role, which is you kind of got to figure out the scenario, but that's kind of like a comparable, I think, to what we were talking about earlier with Fitzpatrick and Tua. I think that would be great for Dwayne Haskins to sort of learn under Cam and just his passion for the game and his skill.
And even give him a sense of competition and want that starting role, because when you have Cam Newton sitting behind you, you obviously have someone behind you that, I mean, a former MVP in the league. I mean, and it's not like he's young or old. I mean, yeah, exactly. All right, so moving on to the NBA. NBA is going to be a pretty popular topic on this podcast for the next probably half hour. The new format has been discussed. The most recent tweet I've seen from SportsCenter, Woj, and all those accounts are that the 22-team format returning on July 31st is the most likely to happen, but they're not ruling out a 16-team return or a full 30-team return. So my question is, what would be the best way to do this?
I think the 16-team would be the best for a couple reasons. If you do a 22-team playoff, or 22-team return like that, they're obviously I think ruling out like longer series, I think it would lean more towards like single elimination or maybe best of three. I mean, they've got to fit all this in,
Mhm.
before October. I mean, we're probably looking at a shortened season next year, depending on how long this plays out. But I think the 16 team would be good. You can get a series in. Obviously, I think single elimination, would be rough, especially with teams, maybe not in rhythm due to quarantine. You could possibly see a 15 seed knock off a 2 seed or whatever, which I mean would be cool. But at the same time, it would be different if they were playing like a 3 or 5 game series where that would never happen. So I think the 16 team would be good. I think it fits right in the middle with everything that they want to do. And I think it's good for the league, honestly, because I think the West has been so much better than the East for a long time. So instead of just having East teams play East teams and West teams play West teams and they all converge, I think that's a good idea, a good trial, and it could possibly be a permanent solution. I talked on one of our previous shows, why not try new things? And if it doesn't work, go with what you did in the past, but why not try it and see how you like it?
Yeah, this is definitely the
Exactly.
time to try new things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my opinion on that, I think I'm with you, Tyler. I think 16 is definitely best, mostly because if they went with 22, the lower tiers down there, 21, 22, they don't deserve playoff spots.
Yeah.
They don't. Like right now, I'm looking at the latest power rankings. The Wizards were 22nd, and they're 23 and 40. They have
Yeah.
40 losses. Like that, they don't deserve to make the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, get like the most exciting teams in there, because the sport's returning after several months of being off. So obviously you want the best play available. So I like I agree with you guys. I like the 16 team format. I think it's clean and crisp, but I think we get it done before, we don't know for sure, like if they're going to like start another season like October. I think Grant and I were talking earlier, like they could start like in like Christmas, Christmas time. But yeah, I definitely do like the format.
I know one thing, whenever I saw them saying they were leaning more towards 22 teams, it was kind of obvious to me. You look down at the standings, one team pops out there that's still not in the playoffs that could possibly make the playoffs. And they have a guy on there, you guys might have heard of him. His name is Zion Williamson. And the NBA wants money, and they're going to make more money off of TV ratings if they have Zion Williamson playing. And, he – like I've mentioned, I mean, I had him number one last week in the top 5 players of the next decade. And, it's if he's not one, he's definitely top 5. And the thing is that if you put somebody like that in the playoffs, you're gaining an entire audience of fans that are younger, because anybody that watched him at Duke, anybody that watched his highlight tapes on YouTube when he was a high schooler dumping over kids that were smaller than us, or if you know just the name Zion Williamson, just because he's such a major celebrity at this point, you're going to watch. And, the NBA is wanting to make money. You can't make money off of ticket sales, obviously, but, somebody watching the game's going to buy his jersey. They see him playing. That's going to make them want to watch him on TV, which only boosts their ratings up. I mean, that's why I think they're personally going to 22 teams. And also – I mean, not as much of an effect, but you also have Damian Lillard down there. You have De'Aaron Fox with the Kings, not much higher. DeMar DeRozan with the Spurs. I mean, you got some players like that has a chance to get into the playoffs, but that was my personal opinion when I first saw they wanted to go 22 teams, that they want to involve Zion and the Pelicans just so they can get more ratings. And I think that my opinion's kind of – a popular one among the community and on Twitter, at least. I've seen it a lot. But with that, that kind of goes into my next topic, that Damian Lillard came out and announced that he's not going to play if he doesn't have a chance to get into the playoffs. So he's gotten a lot of criticism. More recently, it's kind of a random person to criticize him, but Dan Orlovsky went on Twitter last night and said that he was spoiled because he decided he didn't want to play. But there's probably an argument for each side. Where do you guys side with that?
I definitely don't think Damian Lillard is spoiled. He does just about everything for his team. He's one of the superstars in this league, and under normal circumstances, I would prefer him play. But with these circumstances going on, I don't blame him one bit. If the Blazers are completely out of playoff contention, you're a superstar. Why go out there and risk yourself for injury for a couple meaningless games? I don't blame him one bit. And I also saw that John Wall said he's 110% healthy right now, but he's in the same boat. If they don't have a chance to make the playoffs, he's not playing this season. So that's how I feel about it.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I don't. So is it like he's not wanting to play? Like if they don't make it in the playoffs, he doesn't want to play.
Yeah, if they don't have a chance to make the playoffs at all, if they're going to go play some games and they don't really and it's like all 30 teams come back and they don't give them a chance to make the playoffs, he's not playing.
Yeah, okay. I understand it now. So I agree. Like that doesn't make sense, especially when you're not only a superstar but the superstar of your team. Why even from like an organizational standpoint would you even risk playing him, let alone himself wanting to play and risk that injury? Because it's already going to be risky enough, in all these different leagues that are going to come back as quick as possible and get sort of like a way, like a wrap up for the season. In the summer months here, it's already going to be a risk of potential injuries to superstars as it is, with the shortened time to train and get back with the team and actually get back into the physical, movements of the sport or whatever. So that's I definitely I think I clearly see his side of things.
Yeah, I see that as well. For them to have a chance to make the playoffs, though, I think a reasonable thing would be they'd have to finish around 500, and they're 9 games below 500, so they'd have to finish around like how many games are left? Like 15 games?
15, yeah,
17,
like
15 games?
Yeah,
they'd have to go like 10-5, 12-5 around there. So they'd have to finish strong. It'd be tough, but I can see as a competitor where if you have no chance, like why risk any injury or anything like that. So
I can see the argument for him wanting to play. I do agree with you guys. I don't think there's any reason he should. But if he wants to play, you got to look at it from a basketball perspective. They have a full roster that's healthy right now, that's had a chance to get back and recover from their injuries, because they were playing this entire season without 2 of their key players, and Zach Collins and Jusuf Nurkic. And I think that with them healthy, you have 2 premier centers in Whiteside and Nurkic, and then Collins is still, I think, in his lower 20s, very young guy who has a lot of potential. And you're not even involving a really good veteran in Carmelo Anthony. And then you have Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum at your 1 and 2. And Rodney Hood also will be back if they start playing. So the Blazers are an interesting team to watch. But like Matt said, if you're going to have to win, 10, 11, 12 of your 15 games and you lose your first 4, yeah, I wouldn't play either. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So that brings us to one of our main segments, and that's going to be predicting the bracket. There is a proposed bracket with the 1st through 16th teams, and the way that the bracket will work is not March Madness style. It is that the top seed will move on, and the top seed will play the lowest seed. The next highest team will play the next lowest seed, so on, so on, so on. And we all made our brackets, and I guess we will just all kind of describe them. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'm going to keep it short. So both sides, I'll pull it up real quick. So on the left side, they have Milwaukee and Orlando playing each other. OKC and Miami, Boston and Philly, Dallas and the Clippers. So I got Milwaukee winning. I think that's a no-brainer. Spoiler alert, I think they're going to run through the whole playoffs. But then I have Miami beating OKC, Boston beating Philly, and the Clippers beating the Mavericks. And then on the right side, they have the Lakers and the Nets, Rockets and the Jazz, Nuggets and the Pacers, and Grizzlies and the Raptors. I have the Lakers beating the Nets. I think that's also a no-brainer. It's LeBron in the playoffs. I mean, come on. And then I have Houston beating Utah. I think Utah's a really strong team, but I think James Harden's going to go nuts. Then I got my Pacers, of course, beating the Nuggets. I can't bet against my Pacers. And then I have Toronto beating the Grizzlies. Now, going into the Final Four teams, I kind of picked one team that I think not a lot of people would pick, and then three kind of easy picks. So I have the Bucks, Lakers, the Heat, and the Clippers. I think the Heat are going to make a big run this year when we eventually come back. But I love their talent. I love the talent they got. So yeah, and in the finals, I've got Milwaukee and the Clippers. I don't have the Lakers making the finals. I think PG and Kawhi are going to shut down LeBron and AD. So yeah, and then I have Milwaukee taking it all. I don't think anybody's really going to touch the Bucks this year. Giannis is a different breed this year. He's going to go nuts. So.
I like it.
I'll go next. I kind of broke it down by rounds. So for round one, obviously the 1 seed, the Bucks, playing the 16 seed, the Magic. Obviously, I have the Bucks winning that. I think even if it's a series, the Bucks sweep them. I don't even think it's close. Then number 2 seed, Lakers, playing the 15 seed Nets. Lakers winning that, obviously. 3 seed, Raptors, playing the 14 seed Grizzlies. This was tough just because I love the Grizzlies team. They're a gritty team on defense, got 2 young studs in Ja and Jaren Jackson, but I still went with the Raptors. They have that championship experience from last year, 2 stars in Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam. So I'm going with the Raptors there. Number 4 seed Clippers playing the 13 seed Mavericks. Mavericks, young team on the rise. I think they'll be in it, in a couple years, but I'm still going with the Clippers there. 5 seed Celtics playing the 12 seed 76ers. I'm going with the Celtics here. I do like the 76ers, and I think they're better than a seed, but I think the Celtics have a more complete team. I think the Celtics play together more than the 76ers do, so I'm going with the Celtics. 6 seed Nuggets playing the 11 seed Pacers. I'm sorry, Matt, but I didn't see enough from Oladipo this year. After he came back from injury, I just didn't quite see him getting in rhythm. If he was completely healthy, might be a different story, but I think the Nuggets have a lot more firepower on offense with Jamal Murray and the Joker, so I'm going with the Nuggets winning that. 7 seed Jazz playing the 10 seed Rockets. This one was tough, but I'm going with the Rockets, especially with the chemistry issues going on between Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell right now. And I just think the Rockets, again, have more offensive firepower with Harden and Westbrook. 8 seed Heat playing the 9 seed Thunder. I'm going with the Heat over the Thunder. Thunder, I think they have one of the best rising stars in the league, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the nice veteran, and Chris Paul. But I think the Heat have the 2 best players in that series, and Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. Going on to the quarterfinals, I have the Bucks against the number 1 seed Bucks going against the 10 seed Rockets, because the Bucks were the highest seed, obviously, so they're playing the lowest seed remaining in the Rockets. I have the Bucks winning that. 2 seed Lakers playing the 8 seed Heat. I'm going with the Lakers. LeBron and AD, best duo in the NBA. So I like them there. The 3 seed Raptors against the 6 seed Nuggets. I'm going maybe a little shocker here. I'm going with the Nuggets. I like Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic and the other nice pieces they have there, and Michael Porter Jr., Paul Millsap, a couple nice players just around them. Then the 4 seed Clippers against the 5 seed Celtics. I think this will be the best series up to this point if this matchup were to happen. But I'm going to give, Doc Rivers the edge against his former team. I'm going with the Clippers. So then the semifinals, we have it down now to 4 teams. The 1 seed Bucks versus the 6 seed Nuggets, and then the 2 seed Lakers against the 4 seed Clippers. So to start with the Bucks Nuggets, I'm going with the Bucks. Giannis, I don't think you can stop him. I don't think there's anyone on the Nuggets that can compete with that. The Nuggets are one of those teams that take small steps every year, and I think this is another small step for them. They win a couple series, but ultimately get bounced by the much more dominant Bucks team. And then the 2-seed Lakers against the 4-seed Clippers. Went back and forth on this one, but at the end of the day, I like the Clippers team more. I do think LeBron and AD are a better duo than PG and Kawhi, but it's close. And I just think the Clippers have a better overall team. With Lou Will, Montrezl Harrell, Patrick Beverly always getting in the other team's head. So I'm going with the Clippers there. So now for my finals, I have the Bucks facing off with the Clippers. I'm going with the Clippers. Kawhi is one of those guys that can turn it on. Anytime he needs to. We saw it last year throughout the whole playoffs. I think it's a close series, but I think at the end of the day, I think the Clippers have a better team overall, and I think Clippers win and Kawhi wins another finals and another finals MVP.
All right, I'll go ahead and go. Bucks are beating the Magic. Not even going to go into that. It's not even really close at all. Thunder and Heat, I went away from the normal opinion. I like the Thunder. I think the Thunder have a really complete team. I think that when you look at that starting five, I think it can compete with a lot of starting fives in the league, including the Miami Heat. And you also have Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Steven Adams, one of the most underrated centers in the league, and also Danilo Gallinari, I think maybe the best stretch four in the league. And then you also forget about their good bench where they have Nerlens Noel, a possible six-man of the year candidate, and Dennis Schroeder. So I think they are going to ultimately come out of this series and shock a Heat team who's a little bit on the younger side, but I think that the Heat will end up with a full season being a little bit better next year. I have the Celtics beating the Sixers. I think the Sixers have more talent, but I think the Celtics played more better as a team. So I'll take the Celtics there, even though I think that's going to be a brawl. And I have the Clippers over the Mavericks. I think the Clippers are going to go pretty far in my bracket. And I think that the Mavericks, I like what Tyler said, going to be good in a couple of years, but right now not good enough. I have the Lakers beating the Nets. I think this will get very interesting if the Nets somehow convince Kevin Durant to play. But I think that if Durant or Irving doesn't play, then there's no really scenario where the Nets will beat the Lakers. But it will get very interesting if they decide to play. I have the Rockets upsetting the Jazz because I think the Rockets' small ball idea that they decided to start doing it was a really good idea. I think it's going to mess with a lot of defensive schemes. And I think that when you look at the Russell Westbrook, James Harden duo with that entire small ball idea, it's pretty hard to defend against. And I think that with the shooters they put around that group with Robert Covington, P.J. Tucker's already been there. They picked up Jeff Green and DeMarre Carroll on the bench. They already had Austin Rivers and Ben McLemore. I think that they've definitely set their lineup to where they can succeed in this small ball lineup. I do have the Pacers upsetting the Nuggets. I look at it from a talent perspective, and I think the Pacers just have more talent. I think Malcolm Brogdon's definitely one of the most underrated guards in the league. And I think him and Jamal Murray are about on the same level. And then when you move on up the lineup, Gary Harris has had a pretty bad year. And I would give Oladipo the edge on that one. And then when you keep going into the lineup, you have T.J. Warren, who's a really good scorer. They have Torrey Craig starting at small forward. You have Domantas Sabonis technically starting at power forward, even though he's a center. I would favor him over Millsap. And then I would give Jokic the edge over Turner. And I just think that the Pacers have way more talent than the Nuggets. And even from a bench perspective, I would take the Pacers too. So I think that's going to be one of the major upsets. And then I have Toronto over the Grizzlies. Not much to say there. So in the second round, I have the Bucks beating the Pacers. The Bucks pretty much dismantled the Pacers this year when they had Giannis. I think the Pacers beat them without Giannis this year. But if you're having the Greek Freak, you're obviously going to be favored. I have the Lakers beating the Rockets. I did go on a little bit of a good. I gave a lot of good words to the Rockets about their small ball lineup, but I just don't think they have enough talent to beat the Lakers. I have the Raptors beating the Thunder. I don't think the Raptors or the Thunder will be able to hold Pascal Siakam, and I think Kyle Lowry has the experience to get him through that series. And I have the Clippers beating the Celtics. That one was a really tough one. Like Tyler said, I think it'll be one of the best series you'll see. But I think that the Clippers will end up being the better team in the series. I have the Clippers beating the Bucks. I think the Clippers have the best all-around team in the league whenever it's all said and done. And I think that when you look at it, that the Clippers are going to probably end up having a bench, unlike a lot of teams that are going to still be in this league or in this playoff scenario. And I think Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell, even with some other bench pieces, they actually picked up Reggie Jackson. I think that bench is going to just outpower anybody. And I have the Lakers beating the Raptors to set up a little bit of an L.A. clash there at the end. And I have the Clippers getting the edge on that. Like I said, I think the bench is going to be too much for opposing teams, and you already have two of the biggest stars in the league on your starting lineup. So I just don't – I like the Clippers a lot, and I think come playoff time, Kawhi is going to be full strength. PG is going to be full strength. It's just going to be hard to beat them. So that's my scenario.
So for my scenario, I kind of went at it that, whatever momentum they had back in the spring, it's a fresh start, You got all the superstars back. That's why, and I'm assuming that KD and Kyrie are back, which will explain some things to come. So let's start it off. Okay. So first we have an obvious one, Milwaukee over Orlando. I mean, that's the Greek Freak is just going to terrorize the Magic. This is obvious. Next, I have the Will Smith Miami Heat over the Oklahoma City Thunder. I just like that matchup. Next, we have the Boston Celtics versus the 76ers. Boston all the way. Listen, I'm about out on Ben Simmons. He was my guy. He's kind of going out of him now. But anyway, I like Boston. I like the players they have. And shout out to my Boston friends out there. Not from Boston, but the Boston fans. You get it. And then I have the LA Clippers over the Mavericks. Obviously, I'm a Kawhi guy. He's a fun guy, Kawhi. Him and PG are going to terrorize this whole entire bracket. Moving on the other side of the bracket, I have the first upset of the Brooklyn Nets defeating the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James goes crying home. He starts working on Space Jam 2. So my second matchup, I have Houston versus Utah. Houston over that. The Beard and Russ are going to dominate the Jazz. I have our Indiana Pacers defeating the Denver Nuggets. Oladipo's going to get a little bit of flashback in him. Domantas Sabonis is going to dominate. Some other key players are going to fill in as well. I have Toronto over Memphis to end off round one. Round two, I'm going to skip that one. We have the Raptors over Indy. Love my Pacers. I definitely think Oladipo makes some spark in the playoffs, but I think you get him another year. But, so I have Toronto over Indy. Then I have the Clippers over the Rockets. I think Paul George and Kawhi over Russ and Harden. This is what I think as far as the duos. I have a great matchup between Boston and Miami. I believe I just remember that being a good, playoff series a few years back. I think it was Dwayne Wade's final years. I just kind of like that. I feel like two teams that are going to just ball out and play hard. And then for my final matchup, I have the Brooklyn Nets, the heroes so far in this story, versus the Milwaukee Bucks. And I have the Brooklyn Nets defeating the Milwaukee Bucks.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my gosh. Pandemonium. People are screaming sports are back. We're heading to the semifinals. Here we go. We're going to start off with the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Boston Celtics. Again, Kawhi, the fun guy, is going to send Jaylen Brown crying home. Brad Stevens crying home. He's going to want to come back to Butler after that loss. Then I have the Brooklyn Nets versus the Toronto Raptors. Now, I'm sorry, but I just had to go with the Brooklyn Nets defeating the Toronto Raptors. Oh, my gosh.
The
could it
Nets,
be
the
Cinderella
16th
story?
seed.
Oh, my gosh. This is for the ages. We head into the finals. This is the COVID championship. Here we go. We have the Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie and KD versus PG and fun guy Kawhi. And unfortunately for the Brooklyn Nets, it's over. I have Paul George.
Oh, no.
The fun guy. I know it's sad. Everybody's crying, but
They
there's
had
always
a good
next
run.
year. But yeah, I have the Clippers winning it all.
I love that scenario. I can see it happening if they both come back. It's just the
Good
key.
story.
Are they going to come back? But
I
In
think
this
it
parallel
did.
universe, yes.
I think it did come out that Durant said he's not coming back this year, but
Oh,
Kyrie could.
this isn't.
Yeah.
There's
We can drink.
multiple universes, so who
yeah,
knows?
you never
Yeah.
know. All right, that was fun. Man, I did not expect three of us to have the Clippers. That was kind of surprising to me. But all right, if you are here for this reason, sit back and let me pour some knowledge out as a preview for our next little topic of controversial topics. Set your eyes on me and listen. Kobe would have not been a top player if Shaq was never a Laker, and let me tell you why. Kobe had 25, 5, and 4 in career stats. Good player, definitely one of the top players of all time right now. Now, let's talk about some other players. Elgin Baylor, 27, 13, and 4. George Gervin, 25, 5, and 3. Rick Barry, 24, 7, and 5. All similar stats. None of those three are considered top 10 or even 20 players of all time. So, if you're going to argue stats with me, let's talk about Elgin Baylor. Let's talk about Rick Barry. Why are they not in the conversation? So, let's talk about Shaq whenever he was in LA. Shaq's stats in the championship seasons: 30 points and 14 rebounds, 28 points and 12 rebounds, and 27 points and 10 rebounds. I don't know about you, but that sounds like an all-time great. Shaq is an all-time great. And I think he is the sole reason they won those three championships in LA. And before they had Shaq, their center was Vlade Divac. Good player. He was a very good player. I'm not going to say that he was a scrub, but he had 11 and 8 for career averages. He averaged 11 and 8. Shaq, let me remind you, 30 and 14, 28 and 12, 27 and 10 in the championship seasons. And Vlade Divac was 11 and 8. So, let's talk about those three championship years when Shaq led the team in scoring for 2 of those 3 years. The next highest points per game besides Kobe was Glenn Rice with 15, and then the other 2 years was Derek Fisher, both years with 11 points. You can't tell me Kobe would have won a championship with Derek Fisher scoring 11 points a game. So let's take a look to Orlando now. We're going to Orlando, where no one ever remembers Penny Hardaway, one of the most forgotten stars of all time. He got injured after Shaq left. We're just going to act like if Shaq stayed there, he wouldn't have got injured, which very well could have happened. It could have been a very different situation if Shaq would have stayed in Orlando because he got hurt after Shaq left. You never know. So he averaged 21, 7, and 4 with Shaq. And I think, arguably, that's going to be enough to keep Shaq. And you have a good cast around them that would have been a dynasty. And it was regarded in that era as a dynasty. You have Shaq, Penny Hardaway, Nick Anderson, Horace Grant, Brian Shaw. You got really good players on that team that is one of those teams that was forgotten. And this is fresh in my mind because I watched the Magic 30 for 30 a couple nights ago. Very good watch. I highly recommend it. So, Horace Grant is on record saying that they would have won 3 or 4 championships if Shaq would have stayed. And I think he would have stayed if Nick Anderson would have done one simple thing, and that's hit a free throw in the NBA Finals against the Houston Rockets. They were up by 3 in the closing seconds of the game. He had 2 free throws, missed them both, got his own rebound, and missed the other 2 free throws. Missed 4 free throws in a row. That would have won them the first game. Instead, Kenny the Jet Smith goes down, hits a 3, sends it to overtime, and the Rockets win that game. They end up sweeping them. I think the Magic would have had all of the momentum. They would have won that first game at home, which would have gave them the momentum to go to that second game. And I think the Magic, and a lot of people are on record saying that they think the Magic would have won that series if Nick Anderson would have hit one free throw. So, if we talk about Penny and Shaq, the reason they broke up is because Penny and Shaq both had ego issues. Shaq wanted to be the number one guy, and he always had the cameras on him. Penny also wanted to be the number one guy, but he was very quiet about it. It all started when Shaq got on a commercial, and he knocked off Penny's little action figure off the side of his shoulder. Penny took offense to that. That's what started everything. So, the reasons why Shaq left, the Magic didn't offer him a lot of money. They offered him less money than Alonzo Mourning. It was a mistake. Shaq was very egotistical and wanted to start him and wouldn't let Penny have it. And Shaq wanted to be in Hollywood his entire career. He wanted to be in the place where had all the movies that he could, continue his rap career and do more than basketball. So he goes to LA. But he's on record saying after his career's all said and done, this was only a couple years ago, he said that if he could do it all over again, he would have stayed in Orlando. He would not have went to LA. So let's go back to Kobe. If we're going to talk about his greatness with championships, take away those 3 with Shaq. Because if Shaq was there, he would not have won those championships. Or Shaq wasn't there, excuse me. He would have only had 2. Let's talk about players with similar stats and people that are on the bubble for top 10 with more championships. Tim Duncan, 5. George Mikan, 5. Magic Johnson, 5. Steph Curry, 3. Dwayne Wade, 3. Larry Bird, 3. All players that would have had more championships and similar stats to Kobe and been a part of the better teams overall. So, Kobe's 2 championships with the team, he had more of a help around him. Obviously, Shaq, you can consider him good help, but more of a team. You have Pau Gasol averaging 18 and 9. Andrew Bynum averaging 14 and 8, Lamar Odom averaging 11 and 8, and Derek Fisher averaging 9 and 3. So you have a pretty good supporting cast around you. I won't deny that team deserved those championships. They had a really good team. Kobe would not have won those championships without Shaq. If Shaq would have stayed in Orlando, Penny and Shaq would have been the Penny and Shaq that Kobe and Shaq was. And I think if that would have happened, Kobe would not be considered a top player of all time. Scene.
Interesting.
Any opinions?
Yeah. I don't know. I like stuff like that. That's just all based on what ifs. That's really all it's based on. Like what ifs. Like what if Shaq would have stayed? What if Penny would have never gotten hurt? Stuff like that. I'm not a huge fan of stuff like that, but I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
Listen,
Evan, Tyler, anything?
Tyler, you got anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, okay, I agree he might not have won, all of those championships if Shaq wasn't there. Maybe one, I don't know, maybe none. But it's still hard to deny Kobe's greatness, and I still think he would be considered an all-time great. Maybe not in that top 3 bubble with MJ and LeBron, but in my book, I think if you even take those 3 championships out of his resume, I still think due to his competitive nature and just seeing how other people talk about him, he's the closest thing to Jordan. You've seen a bunch of basketball players say that. He would still be a top 5 player in my book, personally. I grew up watching him play. He was one of my favorite players for a long time. And, I mean, he just had that, switch that he could turn like Jordan. If he needed a game-winning bucket, he could give it to you. But I'm one of those people that don't think championships mean everything, There's a lot of people that have more championships than guys who I think are better players. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to upset anybody. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think championships mean everything. I still think without Shaq, or if Shaq wouldn't have been a Laker, I still think Kobe would still be considered an all-time great, still a top 10 player, probably a top 5, 6 player. But that's how I feel about it, but I don't know.
Yeah, really, I didn't really during like the Kobe years, I didn't really follow the NBA enough to really. I mean, no doubt he's a great player. I think you guys bring out some interesting points on both sides. Just personally, just what I've seen of like Kobe and just like the way he played the game and all that, I definitely think he like just by himself, without because some degree I agree with Matt. Like it's a what if like he didn't have Shaq, but I mean obviously he did, but he's still won games. I just think he's still on caliber with being like the top three with like MJ and LeBron. And also I just don't want to get on Kobe's bad side because I don't want to be out in the field one day playing a game. I just see the ghost of Kobe Bryant just staring at my soul, and I just give up a sack like that because my life would just be over right there. So R.I.P. Kobe Bryant. I think he's one of the top three.
By no means am I trying to downgrade Kobe's success. Rest in peace. Obviously one of the best players of all time. The only point I'm trying to make is that if Shaq wasn't there, he wouldn't be as high as he is now. That's the only point I was trying to make. And it's interesting to see what people think about that because, I'm a big fan of that Magic team. I've watched that 30 for 30 3 or 4 times now, and it was interesting to see those days and how that team became a dynasty out of being an expansion team. There's some expansion teams that haven't ever gotten out of that hole. The Timberwolves, never. The Mavericks, I mean, they've won a championship, but they're not a dynasty by any means. So, I mean, interesting to see that. So, that kind of goes into our next topic where we have 11 controversial topics to talk about. And this kind of spans from everything. And we'll all just kind of give our opinions. I think it's going to be really fun. So, we're going to do this. Tyler, give me a number 1 through 11.
7.
Is running up the score really a bad thing?
Are you asking me?
Everybody. This is a question for everybody. Is running up the score really a bad thing?
Wow. This is a tough one.
I don't think so.
I'm with you there.
The reason I say that is because, I think people get their feelings hurt too much. Sports are sports. They're supposed to be competitive. And, just some examples of why you should run up the score. The Falcons blew a 28-3 lead on the Patriots in a Super Bowl because they decided, we're up 25. Let's just run the ball, be really conservative. 23 and outs later, the Patriots beat them and win a Super Bowl. So, obviously I think that cost them versus if they would have stayed aggressive in their offensive game plan and did the things that they did all year, get the ball to Julio, get the ball to Devontae Freeman. I think that ultimately cost them a Super Bowl, but I personally don't think running up the score, is a bad thing. If you're a better team, show them you're a better team, show no mercy. I mean, that's just how I feel about it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've had I'm with you on that. I've been on both sides of running up the score. High school, my freshman year, we lost to a team. Not going to give them any credit, but 72-0 in the sectional game on Halloween night when it was like 30 degrees out. And I mean, honestly, we just couldn't stop them, and they just kept scoring. So it's on the team. Like, if you can't stop somebody, and then obviously, like, I think a lot of the teams that run up the scores, I mean, they even go to a conservative mindset. They're late when they know obviously they have it sealed. So if you still even can't stop them, then I'm sorry, it's just your team's that poor of shape, and and then also, at least for like I know like high school and then like D3 where I'm at, like a lot of times like if we've like sort of gotten to the end of the game and like run up scores, it gets other guys in there an opportunity to get some reps, some in-game reps, full speed. So that's kind of nice to see. But I agree, like, don't get your feelings hurt if you get the score run up, or you just come back next time better and ready to actually stop them. Like, it's on you. Like, it's not like there's some like overseeing like parent like, oh yeah, they're running up the score on me, oh no, it's a bully. No, just fix it yourself. Gosh.
Exactly. I think we're on the same boat, really, because I agree with all you guys. I have no problem with running up the score. Obviously, at like different levels of competition, like if you're coaching a peewee football team of like first and second graders, like they're all there to have fun, get a participation like medal or whatever.
Oh.
So don't necessarily run up the score and something like that. But in the pros, like who cares?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
high school even,
I was
who
referring.
cares?
Run up on them kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Pros,
referring
college,
to,
high school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Little
referring to
kids.
upper level.
Right. Like
Hey,
upper level, who cares? Honestly.
Yeah.
hey, throw out the participation trophies. Listen, if you're bad, you're bad. Get out of the game.
Shows dominance, man. It shows dominance. Yeah, I'm on the same side. I'm not going to go into it much because, I mean, you guys basically said everything I was going to say. I mean, the only thing I would add is that, you know, if you don't like it, get better. You know, if you know that team's going to be on your schedule, prepare for it. You know what? Find a way to make them not score as much. You know, even if you're a high school coach playing a football team that you know will probably beat you by 70 points, you know,
creative.
Yeah, be creative with your plays. You know, do something. You know, not really much more I can say about that, but yeah, we're all on the same page there. So, Matt, give me a number 1 through 10.
4.
Should MLB steroid users be allowed in the Hall of Fame?
Ooh.
I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to say yes, and here's why. Steroids obviously give you an advantage. You know, it's kind of tough to justify them, you know, not really giving you an advantage. But for players like Barry Bonds, who would probably be the poster child for a debate like this, you know, he was good without the steroids. And a lot of the people that use those steroids just thought it would give them that extra edge, even though they were all professional athletes and got to the MLB without them. Now, there's some people that might have gotten way better stats with the steroids, and by some I might mean all of them. You mean you never know. But Barry Bonds will, at least for a long time, be considered, you know, the number 1 spot in home runs of all time. And that's probably going to be a record that's not going to be beat for a long time. And you're telling me that guy's not in the Hall of Fame? You're telling me Pete Rose, who didn't have anything to do with steroids, you're telling me he's not in the Hall of Fame? Like, I think this is more on the MLB more than a moral thing, because I think, you know, if you look back at basketball, you're telling me everybody in the Basketball Hall of Fame didn't take something to enhance their performance? I mean, it's hard to tell, but I personally think they should.
Yeah, I'd say they should, only because I would sound like a hypocrite because I'm a huge Pete Rose guy. I've been a Reds fan all my life, and I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. His situation wasn't steroids, but I still think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. So
I'm gonna say no. You know, if Barry Bonds was so obviously he's one of the greats to play baseball. You know, if you're that good, why use steroids? You know what I mean? Like,
good point.
To me, it comes down to morals, and I think it's just ethically not right, you know, to do something that's going to give you, you know, that advantage over others. You know, if you want to be better than someone, go be better than someone, but don't do something illegal to make you better than somebody.
Yeah.
You know, that's just how I feel about it. You know, morally, I don't think it's right. You know, and that's his fault. You know, he was already, you know, a great player. He didn't need to use steroids. So, I mean, that's on him. I don't think, you know, people that use steroids should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree with Tyler. Like, I think within, like, the set parameters of, like, the league, the conference, or, like, the NCAA, like, if they have obviously certain limitations, and you can take, like, you know, supplements and, you know, sort of muscle, you know, just to build your strength or whatever within their limits. Yeah, that's fine. But I think I agree with Tyler. You go beyond those limits and you start doing things that aren't, you know, condoned by the leagues, teams, and conferences, that it just, yeah, I just don't think it's right to set yourself above others who are following the rules, and going above an even playing field. You know, if you're already great, then, you know, you just go out there and be great. You don't have to take a substance to increase that, you know, status. And, you know, I just also, it's concerning to what, like, you know, I don't know everything about steroids, so this is just going off a whim, but you don't know what kind of like what that does to like your body. It's like it's a sacrifice, and it's like is it
Yeah.
encouraging you to sacrifice your body even more than you already are in the sport, depending on what it is, and also like what generations below of like up and coming players, how that affects them. Will they start going beyond their legal limits and trying to do the same thing? So you got to kind of look at that too. Are you going to glorify sort of going beyond the rules? So that's my take.
That's going to be one of those topics that'll be debated for a long time. And right now, Barry Bonds isn't in the Hall of Fame, and I mean he's actually running out of time. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. So Evan, let me get a number 1 through 9.
Go number 9.
If Tom Brady and Peyton Manning never played football, who would be the best quarterback of all time?
Dan Marino. I think Dan Marino. Doesn't have a Super Bowl, but I think that Dolphins team, coached by Don Shula, is one of the most underrated teams of all time, one of the most underrated organizations of all time. And Dan Marino, I think, talent-wise, other than we'll throw Peyton Manning and Tom Brady out of it, other than like Aaron Rodgers, I think Dan Marino is the most talented quarterback of all time.
I like it.
Yeah, I think you definitely throw Dan Marino in there. I also, you got to like consider like Joe, in my eyes, Joe Montana, like Troy Aikman. It's kind of, I'd have to ponder on that one a little bit, but those are like the 3 that come to mind like right away. And then obviously some of like the classic greats like, Bart Starr and Johnny Unitas, John Elway, Joe Namath. Yeah, not Mammoth.
Mammoth.
Joe Mammoth.
Joe Namath, yeah. I mean, those are definitely it's also kind of like you gotta like look at era, I don't know. So those are just some things that come to mind. I'd have to like, really dial it down on those, but
yeah, I don't know for sure who I would put there, but I definitely think, you guys named some really good ones. I think Drew Brees has got to be in the conversation. I mean, this is a guy that does it year in and year out. He was thrown for 5,000 yards in a season before it was even relevant. And, I mean, he's done it multiple times. When you would see Drew Brees throw for 5,000 yards in a season back in 2009, you'd be like, what the heck? Because, nowadays it's a passing league. You usually see at least one person do it every year now. But, I mean, this guy was doing it every year, back when it was a run-heavy league. So, and, obviously has a Super Bowl. He's got robbed of probably a couple, in the last 3 years. I think he's got to be in the conversation. Not saying he would for sure be the best, if Manning and Brady didn't exist or whatever, but he would definitely be in the conversation.
I would say Drew Brees as well. That's the person that came to my mind. And I was even going to throw Kurt Warner in there. I think talent-wise, I think he's up there. I'm not going to say he is, but I think that he should at least be in the conversation as well. And someone else no one mentioned, Brett Favre. Maybe Brett Favre in there as well. But that's definitely a good conversation as well. So, Tyler, 1 through 8.
2.
Should NBA and the NFL make college a requirement, or should they let players come in straight from high school?
I think, they're kind of already letting players come straight from high school. You see guys go straight to the G League or go overseas for a year and then come back. I think it's more beneficial for the player in most situations to go to college. But, it's just dependent on the player, honestly.
Yeah, I'm for definitely requiring some college just because I think, once you get in the pros, you just don't know what's going to happen. Like, no doubt if you're like a top tier player, you're going to have some success, or you could be a bust just as well. So I think you need to have definitely a backup plan in place. Like I think of like, Andrew Luck, for example. He went to obviously he's a brilliant dude. Went to Stanford all 4 years, studied architecture because he wanted that fallback plan just in case the league didn't, work out for him. And I just, I think it would maybe just give college would just maybe give like a buffer to just mature a little bit. Because obviously the pro world, you're kind of on your own there. You know, you have your circle and your agent, but you really got to make some hard decisions for yourself. And I definitely think college would help you with that.
I think it's totally different for each sport. I think for the NFL, you definitely have to require college because, those kids coming out of high school would not be ready, for the physical and mental demands that the NFL has. Their bodies aren't, fully developed. So definitely college for the NFL. For the NBA, it could be a little different. I could see maybe, I kind of like the setup they have now. At least require 1 year of college for the NBA, and is it 3 years of eligibility for NFL? I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like you could be like a redshirt sophomore and go in the NFL, or a junior and go in the NFL. So I kind of like that setup now.
I like that too. I agree with you guys. I think college definitely is needed, but I think the NBA is trending in the direction to let people in like they used to. I mean, if you look at it, like some of the best players in NBA history, I mean, came straight out of high school. You look at Kobe, who I was just talking about, Kevin Garnett,
LeBron James,
yeah. You look at people like that. I mean, and they obviously didn't need college, but at the same time, there's some people that probably wouldn't have been as good as they were with college. So I mean, it could go different ways, but I say let's do 2 more and save the rest for the next episode because we are getting a little too far in time-wise. That's okay with you guys.
Works with me.
All right, so Matt, 1 through 7.
3.
All right, for Evan and Tyler, let me give a little background on this. Me and Matt will understand a little bit more. Should the designated hitter stay as it is, be universal, or be taken out? Right now, the designated hitter is only in the American League, and that's whenever you have a hitter who is obviously pretty good at hitting, batting for your pitcher. Now, in the National League, your pitcher has to hit, and there's no designated hitter. In the American League, you can have a designated hitter play for your pitcher. So should it be universal? Should there just not be one, or keep it as it is?
I think the DH should be universal. I think it should be universal. I've always loved it when teams come out and are just hitting the crap out of the ball. So obviously it would make things more exciting to have 9 hitters in the lineup instead of a lot of teams have 8 hitters and then that pitcher down at the bottom who's more than likely going to strike out or ground out or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. I like watching games when because if an NL team plays an AL team, the NL team has to use DH, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, they already have it set in stone already a little bit, but I think it should be universal.
I think it should be universal as well. I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense to have it in one and not the other. I definitely think DH, I think it makes the sport more exciting, having a good hitter come in, and hit for your pitcher that might not be as good at hitting. So why not, if you're going to have it in one, why not have it in the other? I mean, it's just kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, with my vast baseball experience and my coaching experience, I got to say you got to keep it.
You're a coach.
Hey, I like simplicity. That's what makes sense to me. Not sure what's going on with this situation, to be quite honest with you. I do have to say, I do think they have a lot bigger fish to fry right now than this. But, yeah, I think universal.
I agree with you guys, but I also would like to say that if they were to decide to just make it to where it's not a thing, I think that would be all right as well. I just think the way they have it now is not right. Kind of what Tyler was saying. It doesn't make sense to have it in one league and the other league doesn't. I mean, as a pitcher, you're not going to probably get a hit. I mean, there's some pitchers in this league that will get a hit when they come up. I mean, there's some that just are naturally good hitters. Madison Bumgarner comes to mind, Zach Greinke, even Michael Lorenzen for the Reds has played positions, because he's such a good hitter. So, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to have it in one league and not have it in the other. And if they're not going to have it at all, I mean, it gives you a strategy to think about. You have to think about who to put before him. Looking at averages and stuff like that. So, yeah, pretty much all on the same page there. So, ending it off 1 through 6. Evan, give me a number.
Let's go with 5.
Okay. Should these players make the Hall of Fame? If so, which is more deserving? Joe Flacco and Phillip Rivers. Little background, Joe Flacco has a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers doesn't. Phillip Rivers has better stats in his career. Probably has had a better team in his career.
I'm gonna go Phillip Rivers. I don't know.
Tyler.
Yeah.
Get your mic.
Something's covering your mic, I think.
I think Phillip Rivers. I don't know if either will make it, but I think Phillip Rivers is more deserving of it. Joe Flacco had a defense like no other quarterback in NFL history has had. The teams with Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs. And I'm not taking anything away from Joe Flacco. He was a solid NFL, quarterback, won a Super Bowl. But Phillip Rivers is definitely more talented. Obviously, Grant said he put up more stats. And ultimately, I think he was a better player than Joe Flacco, regardless of not having a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Super Bowl that Flacco has, he only has that because of his defense that he had that year, honestly. But, yeah, Phillip Rivers, I think, has been the much better quarterback over his career.
Yeah, I hate to make it a three-way agreement here, but I do agree. I think they will both be Hall of Famers eventually. Obviously, not anywhere close to first ballot. I don't even think second ballot. But I do think Phillip makes it in before Joe, just because I think Joe's sort of reaching that end point. I think he's already came out and said even for the Jets he's going to be slow to coming back this year. And Sam Darnold's got to be the Jets guy right now. So I don't know what kind of role Joe will play. And obviously Phillip's the guy in Indy right now. No doubt about that. So I think definitely Phillip will finish his career better than Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco had some good years, but I think you agree. I agree with you guys on that. The Ravens, especially in that Super Bowl, were defense dominant. You just got. They have first ballot Hall of Famers themselves on that roster. So yeah, definitely Phillip before Joe. Both Hall of Famers, but not immediately.
Yeah, I would say both Hall of Famers as well. And given the nod to Phillip Rivers, like you guys, it was pretty much the debate if Joe Flacco's elite a few years ago. And that's kind of what sparked this discussion. But I think that when you look at it, Phillip Rivers may not have the team success that Flacco did. But like you guys said, that defense carried him. There's not really another way to look at it. They had Ray Rice, where you see where he's at now. And I bet you can't even name a receiver on that team. Torrey Smith, maybe. But, yeah. That just shows how that team was.
Yeah.
So I got about 6 or 7 left we could probably do on next episode. I think this was pretty fun. Interesting to hear everyone's opinions on this. So I'm going to close off as normal with my closing thoughts. Lil Yachty's album was horrid. No one listened to it. It was trash. If you want a real one, Freddie Gibbs came out with a really good one. 2, if you got the Cactus Trails this morning, Travis Scott's new shoes, you're lucky. I woke up at 10 just to try to get them. Didn't get them, and I was kind of mad about it. But if you got it, congratulations. And 3, I think that if you're watching Korean baseball this weekend, there's some pretty good games on the slate, man. NC Dinos, the current leader in the league, are playing, led by former MLB player Aaron Altair. And I think that if you're really looking for something and you're a night owl like me, definitely check it out. The KBO is definitely fun to watch.
I don't really have much to say this week, but hey, don't give me hate on this, but Russ's album was fire. I don't know if you guys have listened to it, but his album is fire. I don't want any hate from that from anybody, okay? But yeah, I appreciate everybody watching every week. We really appreciate it. Appreciate the continued support. All we ask is keep supporting us. Soon we'll be doing in-person episodes, and then eventually probably 2 episodes a week. So it's gonna be picking up here. It's gonna be pretty cool.
I just wanted to bring it. First of all, Grant, I'm disappointed. You mentioned earlier to me you're going to bring it up, but Travis Scott's shoes.
I did. I brought it up. Cactus Trails.
Did you bring it up?
Yeah, just did.
I was thinking about how trash the MLB was. But I definitely think the shoes belong in that dumpster as well. They're awful.
They're ugly, but they resell for a lot.
Hey, the Jordan 1s last year, now that's fire. But anyway, just continue off what Matt said. Keep continuing watching. Tell your family and friends about us. It's a good time to get together every week and just talk about sports. Just keep watching us. Stay tuned for updates. Trying to do potentially more episodes in a week and start recording with us in the same room. So see how that develops. So just keep up with us and be excited to see where we keep on going.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching, listening. If you guys ever have any suggestions or topics you want to hear us talk about, reach out to us personally, comment on our videos, whatever. We're more than glad to, talk about stuff that you guys want to hear, even if it's a top 10 of something you guys want to hear, fantasy football, whatever. I mean, just shoot us suggestions. We'd be glad to, talk about them. So thanks for watching, listening, and, tune in next week. We'll have another great episode.
And definitely tweet your opinions at Grant to tell him how wrong he is on stuff. He loves it.
I do, actually. And, Evan, don't you have something, a little view goal for us this week?
I think definitely we get to – what are we thinking, guys? Like 100 views, and Tyler has to go back on his old commitment, which he's still –
We just want to point out, we said 100 retweets, and Tyler jumped into Westwood Lake, and we got it.
I think
it might have been 2 years late.
I thought it was 50.
Oh, it might have been 50. Yeah, it might have been 50.
Hey, 200 views, and it's a deal.
200 views.
Easy.
Get your friends, families, cats, dogs, doctor, everybody watching this episode, and we are going to make
every
that
device possible.
Posted on the Post Game Show Podcast YouTube channel. Tyler will be running and jumping into Westwood Lake here in beautiful Newcastle, Indiana. So let's make sure we make that happen. But thank you for watching, everyone. Hope you all have a great rest of your night, and we will see you next week. Adios.